All right, hello everybody. Hello to the stream, and as always, let's do a quick check. I think there are some new things going into play this time around, so let's make sure everybody can hear me okay on Twitch, YouTube, and also on Facebook. So if you guys can just type in the chat if you can hear me okay, then we can go ahead and get started. Let's see, do this over to here. So anybody can hear me, everybody can hear me loud and clear. Okay, cool. So Sculptricity, thank you. So we're good on Twitch, and I just want to make sure we're good on YouTube because I guess there were some changes made to it. I just want to confirm that everybody can see and hear me okay, and we can go ahead and get going. So let me actually, while we're doing that, let me try and give this thing a different color, maybe a darker color like that, and like so. And we can use Subtool Master to fill it. Color and material. Before I do that, let me get a good angle because it's kind of a cool thing to watch. There it is. Subtool Master, fill. Yep, go for it. All right, so there it is. I forget that it's just one subtool. And we can make this a little bit lighter. And I can just use fill object. But for the other one that I did, I probably, where I have all the different pieces, I use the Subtool Master. Okay, so cool. We are good on YouTube. Hey Dan, how's it going? And all right, everything looks good. So basically, since last time, and just to kind of catch everybody up, we are working on this spaceship over here. And so we are at about 160 different subtools on this, and this is all the visible and non-visible stuff. So not that many, but the modeling is done, so we don't need to do any more modeling on this. I'm pretty happy with what we've got. And next today we're going to try and see if we can paint and maybe do some test renders. And next time we'll do some finishing renders, and we'll be done with this project. So just real quick, the only other things I've done since the last stream is I did a little bit of work on these panels. So you can see they're kind of at different angles. I noticed that a lot of the solar panels that are on satellites and spaceships and whatnot usually are at different angles, slight angles probably to catch better reflections. So I did that. And also another thing that I did is I also created a border around it here. And the border I did using the new capability of doing a equidistant version of the inset. So if you guys don't know what that is, let me just show it real quick. I'll go to Cube 3D here. Let me just initialize this thing as one of my, and I guess this would be a good time to mention this as well. So here, let me just choose this cube instead of the one that's there. I guess I need to make this 3D first. Okay, and choose cube 1 under this. Okay, so basically what equidistant does, and I don't know if a cube is probably the best thing to show it with. Maybe the sphere is probably better. Okay, so here, let's say I want to create a border around this top part of the sphere, right? So the way I do that is I'm just going to go ahead and do an inset, and I'm going to do an inset border only, right? So I just want the border of this thing. Well, actually, let's just do center and border. Right, and now there is 3 different ways of doing this. So equidistant, standard, and legacy. And equidistant is the new one, and it's really good. And I also see here I can just do one polygon, but I want to do the entire polygroup here. So I'll just do polygroup island, like so. And now you can see that the border I'm creating is equally distant from the edge where I started to where it ended, right? So I can do one more here. So you can see I can create these equidistant kind of borders. And I wasn't able to do that before. I mean, it did do a inset, but the distance varied sometimes, and now we basically have them the same exact distance. So I did the same thing here with these panels, right? So and some of them I have a little bit of a lip, like this one, but most of the other ones, and that's just I should turn on polyframe. That actually shows it off better, and it would help if I was on the thing. Okay, so front energy panels. And yep, here we go. So you can see here, I basically created another, so the back one looks like it's not really equidistant, but it really is, because I actually have yeah, you can see it here. So I actually extruded this part out. So all these are equidistant now, and so I just basically created borders for the panels, and they basically did them for the front and the back, and also angled them a little bit so they have this kind of a little bit of an angle to them. And that's that. And let's see, what else did I do? Nothing much. I basically resized some things, moved some things around, but basically this is going to be it for us. So then after I got done with this, and for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, this is just a spaceship that we are making. So it's a spaceship that basically was built in space, right? So, and it has two different parts to it. There is a back part which we can hide, and the back part basically is kind of a storage maybe, or something that they can leave behind if they need to separate out. And then this part is what separates out and travels around. These energy panels are retractable, and they're magnetic, so they basically retract. So this is basically the main spaceship, and then there's the back of it, right? And so now it's a little bit bigger. It's got kind of bigger engines that maybe help it go further distances and whatnot. So this could go a certain distance, and then maybe this can separate out and go do its thing and come back. And then there are the energy panels that retract and basically come back, and these are all, you know, have little jets on them, and they jettison themselves out of the spaceship and connect up like this, so the spaceship can basically stay in orbit of some sort of solar energy area and get its power regenerated, and then these retract into the spaceship, and it can go further. So any questions on any of this so far? Olandis, you're asking where the mechs are at. So we did a robot. If you watched my previous streams, we did a robot before. So I do a lot of mechs. So, you know, rest assured that in these streams I will be doing a mech. Maybe the next time. Some I opted for a spaceship. But you can see that I do plenty of mechs. This was done entirely in ZBrush. This one was done a long time ago. Part of it is ZBrush, part of it is not. This was done entirely in ZBrush. This was done in ZBrush. So you'll be seeing a lot of mechs, but in this one it's going to be Spaceship. So what I recommend is that if you want to see me make a mech, then tune in maybe in a couple of months or so. I'll be starting a new project, and it's going to be a mech. The next one is going to be a mech, so we'll see it then. But if you like mechs and robots, I also did one a while back. So here, if you go to ZBrush Live, the ZBrush Live channel, and you go down to presenters and find me. Let's see here. Where am I in all this mess? Here I am. Dead center. So here we go. You can see that recently we've been doing these projects. And one of the things I showed last time was this mech interior that I'm making. So we'll use this probably in the next mech that I make. But this series, this season, is going to be the spaceship that we started. But before that, I did a spinner, kind of the Blade Runner car. Did one of those. And then before that, I did this robot, which is very much like a mech. So all these are available on ZBrush Live. So you can go watch these there, and you can also watch them on the YouTube channel. So if you go to the YouTube channel, Pixologic's YouTube channel, all these streams, including this one, are cataloged and put in there for you. And I think there's a playlist that's just me, and it's here somewhere. And you can go in and watch my streams. I don't know if they have it by name or how it works, but I'm sure you can find it. Or if you just watch one of my videos, so I have one over here, I think this one, if you go to this one, I think it shows the playlist of just all my videos on the right. So pretty easy to watch. I like the organization here of the ZBrush live page better, so you can probably just start from this one and work yourself out to the finished stream. And usually it takes me about 10 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks to finish a project. So you can watch those there. All right, and just a real quick thing, if you guys want to see more of my mechs and more of my work, you can go to my Instagram. It has the latest, my latest versions, or my latest works. So here, for example, the spaceship, I did a test render, and you can see these on here frequently. So I've got a test render here that's basically just the wireframe, and then over here I've got a robot, a mech that I was working on. So this is another render of it. This one is done in Keyshot, and I did this render here in ZBrush. So plenty of mech stuff. You can go and enjoy them on your own time, and my next stream series is going to be a mech, so you can watch that there. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at what we're doing here. So again, I've got this pretty much separated out pretty nicely here. We've got all the different folders, and so we can go ahead and break them out and look at them separately, see all the different subtools and whatnot. But today we're going to paint it. So what I've done is I've just basically combined everything here into one subtool. Here's that, right? So now everything is just one subtool, and I can of course separate it out again, but right now I just see it as one entire subtool. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm going to Dynamesh it. So I've also done that before, so I've Dynameshed it, and the Dynamesh basically gives me a very close version of the model I was working with. Right, so you can see a lot of the details are preserved in the Dynamesh. And the way I did that, I didn't want to do that on the stream itself because it takes a little bit of time, especially with a model this complex. But basically the settings are this. You just go to Geometry and Dynamesh, just max it out at 4096, turn blur down because you want it to be pretty much the same as what it was before. And for good measure, turn project on, which will project it onto the existing mesh. So once you have that, and if I go ahead and turn on polyframe for this, you can see that it's a pretty dense mesh. And let me see if I can change the polygroup color. And, it's all fused together, which is fine. But the good news is it's giving me all these little polygons that I can paint. So now, if I go to paint this, we're going to be seeing this kind of as a larger object. So we don't really care about the details when we get up close. Like even if we get up close, we see a little bit of pixelation here and whatnot. We don't really care about that because we're going to be looking at it from maybe a perspective like this. And if I want to zoom in on a specific portion and render that, then I've got it all broken out, so I can go in and take a broken out part. But today we're just going to do some ideation and do some painting just to get kind of some color on this thing. So let me choose a little bit of a lighter color here. Let's go with a kind of a primer color here and just fill it with that. So that's kind of not really showing through the background. So I'm going to go a little bit darker of a gray here. Maybe let's try this. There, that's better. So we just have kind of a primer on here, and we're going to go ahead and paint. So a couple of things I should also mention is that people always ask me where my UI or information about my user interface, and if I can share it, and I usually don't share it. The reason why is twofold. One is because my UI is the way I work, so I don't know if it'd be useful to you. It might be, right? It might be a place to start, but that's fine. But on the other hand, also, it's good for you to learn how to make your UI and make your own, because it's pretty useful. And the other reason I don't give it out is because I change it all the time. So now, last time I had a lot of the cloth brushes in here, but it made this menu kind of really big. So I actually created a dynamics menu that's separate. So that's different. And then I also created another menu that I use too, so that I don't have to keep going over to the right here. And eventually these streams are going to be where I'm not really showing a lot of the right and left panes. Like I'm going to be hiding this over here and this over here. But the good news with that is it'll give us more of a canvas, right, to work with, and then I can just pop up my menus to do the different things. Also, I should note that this is more of a kind of an intermediate to advanced stream. So I'll answer questions, any questions, beginner questions, whatever. I don't care, but I'll just to kind of get the workflow going. I'll be using my user interface and not the kind of generic one. Another thing to also note is, I'm really sorry about this, is that people ask for the colors of my UI, and I don't mind giving that away at all. I'll be sharing that, and I've just been kind of, I guess, not doing it, and I should do it. So I promise by the next stream, you will have the UI colors. All right, so before I get going, any questions on anything so far with the model? Right, so let me just go ahead and choose a paint brush here. And I bought some paint brushes the other day from this Gumroad site, and I probably will be using those. So I should go ahead and get those brushes. Where are they? I think they're over here somewhere. I've got a ton of different brushes that I use in ZBrush, all really good. I think, where are they? Folds, edges, Polypaint. Here we go. So I got all these brushes from a channel on Gumroad, and I'll just be trying some of these out as we go along. I don't know if they're useful or not, but you can do quite a bit with just what's in ZBrush. So let's go ahead and close that out. And let's go ahead and start painting. So here, choose a different color. Let's go with red. So here I can just kind of start painting. And since, again, I Dynamesh this thing, I can just paint on the entire model. So I can test certain things out. And I can mask things out, and I can also do all sorts of fun things. So the first thing I'm going to do is mask the cavities. And let's go ahead and do that. With the masking menu over here. And let's do mask by AO. And I'm just going to go ahead and let this do its thing with the default, see what we get. Right, and you can see that it is in progress. This stream, we're going to probably be waiting a little bit for things to happen because we have a lot of geometry to deal with, which is kind of good because I can answer questions and have more of an interaction with you while ZBrush is thinking about things. So this would be a good time to ask a question because ambient, this is happening. This is doing its thing. The other thing I also should do is I should go over to geometry and turn off Dynamesh, because I don't want to be like clearing a mask and then having it take a long time to re-Dynamesh it. We don't need to re-Dynamesh this at all. All right. Wish there was a way I could see who is on here. Let's see. Yeah, I just see the different services. Let's see, there's some sort of dashboard. Let's see how that works. All right. Nope. I don't know if I can get into it. All right. Well, I'll find out. All right, so, okay, good question. Why am I masking by ambient occlusion? When when you have something that's kind of traveling in space or whatever, the nooks and crannies of it usually collect up a little bit of dust, a little bit of dirt, and so all the kind of nooks and crannies here, all the different greebles that we've got and whatnot, they basically will collect different particles and whatnot, and so they get a little bit dirtier, and so just by masking by ambient occlusion, you can just paint the object, and you'll see this. I'll paint the object a different color, and all the other areas will maintain the other color that is masked. So I didn't realize this would be taking this long, but let's just let it do its thing. We've got a lot of different pieces here, so I can see why it's taking so long. And if it's taking way too long, then we'll just kill the process and start over. And then we'll mask it differently. But that's a good question, Coyote. So have you guys been trying out the new ZBrush 2021? You guys realize there's a patch, right? So there's 2021.1.1. So everybody make sure you get that. And I'm running that over here so you can see it on top. Right here. The other thing also to note is, I should talk about this too while this is happening in the background. There is also another thing that happened over the past few weeks, and where is it? Let me find the page that I'm looking for here. Where is that browser window? Did I just close it? Huh. That'd be funny. Well, I've got something else I also can do while we're waiting for this, just in case. So let me see if I close the window. If I did, it's no big deal. Nope, that's not it. All right. Recently closed. All right, we're all good. Yep, it's this one. So the other thing I should also mention that is that if you go to Pixologic.com and go to, let's see, where is it? I think ZBrush, and no, maybe not here, but let's see. There's a place where you can download, maybe it's not on ZBrush Central, I think it is here. Get ZBrush, where is it? Not here. ZBrush forum, meetings, artist interviews, so maybe it's under support, and yeah, resources, I think it's here. Yeah, if you go here, no, where is it? There's a place where you can download all the new plugins. Maybe it's under ZBrush Live, ZBrush Blog. I guess if you just Google it, let's see, ZBrush plugins. Resource Center. Okay, so if you go to the ZBrush Resource Center so ZBrush Download Center, Z plugins, you can see that all of the plugins have been updated for ZBrush 2021. So all these are really useful. I use most of them, and you can just download these and install them. So I think this is kind of a good announcement to make too while we're waiting for this to happen. Wow. I did not realize this was going to take so long. I should have given it a try beforehand. All right, we'll just kind of wait while this is happening, and while it is going on, I'm going to go ahead. Let me take a quick look at. Wow, it's really using up a lot of my CPU power, which is kind of cool. But the other thing I should also mention is that I'm also working on a background. And for that, I'm using this program called Flame Painter. And Flame Painter is really good for creating kind of space type things. And I'm using, I think, version 4. And so here, I'm going to go ahead and just start painting. And you can see that it's basically putting these stars in there. So I'm basically creating a nebula. And there's all these different ones too. Let's see here, particle. And let's go ahead and choose this clouds one. And I can very quickly add my opacity, and maybe I need to bump it up a bit. What color is it? Here we go. Well, today is the day of things not working. All right, normal opacity. Maybe I bump this opacity up too. Here, yeah, you can see it's putting on. Oh, yeah, that's why it's on color dodge. Let me put it on normal. All right, let's undo all this. All right, and let's reduce the size and maybe reduce the opacity a bit. And see now, I'm just kind of going in here and turn this back to normal. Get back to this state, turn this back to normal here, and maybe reduce the opacity of this level. So you can see here that I'm just basically able to create a nebula like that. And let me just add a new layer to do it. And just go ahead and start kind of creating type of a nebula like this. And then we can maybe just switch some colors here. Make it really colorful. Let's go for a deep red. Like so, and then let's just go for a deep blue. Like so as well. So, and then I can just drop the opacity of the whole layer and get a really kind of neat looking nebula like this. You know, this is going to be something I'm going to use to create backgrounds. So this company that makes this also has a couple other programs that are pretty neat. And they're pretty inexpensive, and I think they're free versions of them as well, trial versions and whatnot. So you can take a look at those. So I'm going to go ahead and move this out of here and see if the ambient occlusion masking is done. And it just looks like it's not. So maybe this was not the best idea to do it on this type of a model. And I don't think the model is, I think it's about 7 million polys. So yeah, it's gonna take its time. Let's give it a couple of more minutes, and if it doesn't do it, let's see, what time is it? 7:31. So if it's not done by 7:33, then we're going to end the process and maybe just start over with with different types of maskings, or maybe reduce the poly count to get something better. All right, let me just check and see what my process is. Yeah, it's using 75% of my CPU and a good chunk of memory, so I wish there was a way I could know how far along it is, but the Dynamesh itself took about maybe 5 or 7 minutes, so I don't think this is going to take that much longer. Should put some music on while this is happening. All right, so good time to ask questions. Anybody, nobody's here is using ZBrush 2021? Or, yeah, you can use it for aging metal. You can use it for all sorts of stuff. Okay, cool. So we got one person using ZBrush 2021. Cool. Yeah, the dynamic stuff is pretty neat. And if you guys haven't watched Paul's streams, he did 2, one last Friday and one this Friday, and they're really good too. So he goes over to some of the features. I covered a bunch of them in my last stream. Kind of my last stream was a little bit of a kind of an offshoot of this of the project, and I just showed some things I was working with in the beta and other times. All right, so let's see, what's the time? Are we at 33 yet? We are. Okay, so God, yeah, I don't know if like it's 2 seconds from being done, I'm gonna kill it and not get it, or if it's like gonna take longer. So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and end the process. Just start it over. Sorry, this happens every once in a while. Oh, what's this? All right, close the program. Do wait. Nope, I'm gonna close it. All right. So just go ahead and restart it. There we go. And all right. There we go. Bring it here and maximize it. And reload our spaceship over here. And we should be good to go. All right, so yeah, extrude edge is really good. Thinking black, yeah, it's one of my favorite. You know, that if they just gave me extrude edge and thickness, both of those things are, you know, enough for me to be like, this is the best upgrade ever. Let alone all the other dynamic stuff. Yeah, the beach towel stuff. I mean, yeah, you know, beach towels are for demo purposes for sure. But I don't know if you've tried putting clothing on people. I think you can do that pretty nicely. And also, I don't know if you realize, but you can use cloth for other things too. And you know, one thing I discovered the other day, which is kind of cool, is this. And I'll show it to you guys after this loads. It shouldn't take much longer to finish. But as soon as it's done, I'll talk about the other thing that I used it for. But you don't really think about using cloth for something like that, but it works really cool with it. Come on, spaceship. I should be, here we go. I should be trying these things before if I do them on the stream, but I didn't really have much time. But the thing I was talking about is this. So there's a plugin for ZBrush called ZTree, which should basically makes trees. And it's pretty useful. So where is it? ZTree, right there, right? And it's pretty simple. You just click on Start, and it just creates this kind of tree for you. And then you say, okay, well, let's grow some branches and grow some branches, grow some more branches. That's great. And then, you know, maybe grow some more branches, some more, right? So you basically create a tree like this. And then if you press A, it gives you this adaptive skin, which here I'm just basically going to go ahead and choose a very simple adaptive skin, something like this, right? And let's make sure the floor is down below. It is. Very cool. So now what we can do is we can say, okay, we like this, just make it into its own thing. And there's the skin right there. It has its own geometry. So now if I want to animate if I want to do some interesting things with this, let me turn perspective off. What I can do is just go into dynamics, and I'm going to set the direction upside down for this, and then just run the simulation. And let me stop that for a minute. Let's see, how many subdivisions do I have? You have 2 subdivision levels. I don't need 2, I just need 1. Delete higher. And let's run the simulation now. Okay, so I'm going to mask the bottom part, run the simulation. And it's going to create a really interesting type of a tree that I wouldn't get otherwise. So you don't really think of it as like, okay, this is going to be cloth doing this, right? I mean, you think of dynamics, you think of cloth, but you can also use it with geometry like this. And then here I'm just going to go ahead and turn on inflate, and run the simulation. And remember, this is simulating upwards because that's the direction I set the gravity, right? Maybe set the gravity strength down to 0. And we don't want to really do gravity anymore. We just want to inflate it. So now the gravity is, or the simulation is doing an inflate on here. And maybe I can increase the amount here to, let's say, 5. And let's run that simulation again. Right, so now it's basically doing something really interesting. So it's looking less like a procedural tree, and it's looking more like something interesting. And then now I can just reverse the direction of the gravity. So I'm going to set direction downwards, right? So whatever down is on your screen, that's going to be the direction that the simulation goes to. And now I'm going to increase the gravity back to, let's say, 10, and then run the simulation again. Right, you get something like that, but I can liquefy it. Right, and then you start getting something like this. Maybe I'm going to mask this whole part right here, run the simulation. Let me put inflate on here too. So maybe use the gizmo, the cloth gizmo. Transpose smart mask cloth, right? So I can use this to maybe do that, do that. So I'm basically doing the simulation as well as doing kind of the gizmo thing. So that's kind of good right there. And yeah, so it's a completely different way to use the cloth simulation. It's definitely not a towel for sure, but you can always kind of use leaves and stuff to populate this as well by using nanomesh and whatnot. But yeah, I find it to be really neat, and I've been experimenting and doing some really interesting stuff. I'm also working on a tutorial, which I will have out soon, which talks about the different types of folds that you can do. So if you're doing clothing folds and whatnot, you can do those with the dynamics and simulation stuff. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of fun experiments with it and enjoying it immensely. All right, so now let's turn the floor off here and let's start painting this. So what I'm going to do here is, let me see how many polygons this is. Okay, sorry, I was wrong. This is 50 million polygons. So that's a lot of polygons to have. And that's probably why that thing was taking so long. So if I can probably dynamesh this at a lower number, but I'm not going to spend the time doing that now. I'll just go ahead and start painting. So here I'm just looking for ideas of how to paint this. Maybe have some stripes on here. And again, I'm not really going to be worried about the end result. I'm basically just doing ideation. So let me just go to my paintbrush here and just choose a simple alpha like this. And maybe choose a different color like white. And so now notice here that I can start painting like so. And if I want to have stripes or whatever, I can always up my lazy radius to maybe about 100. Now let's start with 60, and I can just go like that and do that. See, and I get a stripe like this. So I'm just basically kind of thinking about what kind of stripes would look good on this type of a spaceship, right? Another thing I can also do if I don't want to do the lazy mouse is I can always go to Lightbox and go to Spotlight, and I can choose different spotlights. So I'll choose here from the kind of the set that I have, and let's turn this on, and let's resize everything down and see if there are ones that would look cool. So here they're mostly lines, but maybe this one will work. So I'm just going to choose this one and bring it over, resize it to be a little bit bigger, like so. Right, and then just place it over here, and let's hide that. And now if I paint, basically I'm just painting where this object is, right? So here, if I hide my, if I hide the light, the spotlight, right? So I basically have painted in that area. So that's good, and I'm basically gotten what I wanted. And another thing I can also do here is, let me go ahead and pick this and just erase this part over here. So now I've got that stripe and it looks good. So let me bring my light box back, move this over like so, right? And that's good where it is. I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna actually undo the paint job that I did. Let me just resize this again, put it over here. Yeah, I'm just going to undo the paint job that I did and just bring this back. I want to make it a little bit bigger. This one over here, and just make it bigger. Of course, I can always use the defaults as well, but I like the kind of the angle that this has. All right, so I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger like so and place it over here. And like that, and just go ahead and paint, and notice that it's just painting wherever there is the spotlight. And then go to this, maybe make sure I fill this top part. And what you want to do is, you definitely don't want to move your model, so it'll be a good idea to just kind of set a camera angle so you can always snap back to that existing spot. And then let's move this over to here, like so, and then hit X again. I'm pressing X. That's my hotkey, but I think there's a different hotkey for this, so don't use my hotkeys for it. I use X and Shift X to hide and bring back the spotlight, because I think Z is the key that you use, and I don't use Z because I use Z to resize the brush in my user interface. All right, so now I just basically have these three stripes. Let's hide spotlight, and you can see here that it's very easy to kind of achieve this type of look. And of course I could have loaded an alpha. I don't have it on the other side, but I don't really care, because right now I'm just looking at some ideas. So I'm looking at ideas to see if this looks good. And this looks very like Chris Foss type of stripes on a spaceship, and I like that. So I'm just going to kind of continue to keep this. In the meantime, this guys had a bunch of questions, so let me go ahead and look at those. All right, cool and nice. Thanks for all right. And 50, yeah, 50 million was I didn't realize it was 50 million, because when it was dividing up, it said something around 7-8 million, but 50 million is what it ended up being with the Dynamesh. So what I'll probably do to get that ambient occlusion pass is I'll probably re-Dynamesh it and get it at a lower polygon count. But I don't want to do that now, because if I do that now, it's going to it's probably going to take a long time, and it might cause issues. So I don't want to, I just want to kind of continue doing this because it's kind of what I've been wanting to do for a while now. All right, and then yeah, the hot Shift Z and Z are that's correct for Spotlight. So if you're just using ZBrush with its own UI, then Z and Shift Z are the keys. That's correct. But I have Z mapped to changing my brush size, because it's kind of closest to Shift, and I just use Z to make the brush size bigger. So I use X and Shift X for my Spotlight, but again, that's just my preference, and that's again why I don't share my UI, because maybe you guys don't want to do it that way. All right, so now here I'm just going to mask this part out. I don't want the paint on this bottom part. And notice here that I've got the two colors. I've got the color of the spaceship and the color I'm painting. So now I can just, if I hold Alt down, I'm basically painting with the other color, like so. Oh, am I on paintbrush? I am. All right, let's see here. Come on. All right, so is this painting in white? Nope. Why are we not painting? I did something. Oh, I'm going to turn spotlight off. I think it's still. All right. And now, nope. What is going on? All right. Do I have? Just going to mask this top part like so. And I don't have RGB on. That's why. RGB on. And yep, I don't want it to be white on the bottom. I want it to be gray. So I'm just gonna mask this top part. Sorry, I'm doing this 3 times now. And just paint this part white like so. And also this top part, I don't want it to be painted. So I'm just gonna do that same thing. Mask this bottom part and then just use Alt. Keep hitting Control instead of Alt. All right, here we go. Do this. All right, so now I've got this part painted, and then on the other side, I don't really care. I mean, I can always mirror and weld. I don't know what that's going to look like with a 50 million polygon spaceship, but there's that. And then here, I don't want this antenna to be that color, so I can just mask this part like so. And paint this its normal color as well, right? So actually polypainting is pretty good in ZBrush. It allows you to kind of get some ideas for what you want. So I really like this pattern, so I think I'm going to stick to it. And now I don't really need the entire model to paint these. I just can look at the different subtools that these are, and I can paint those individually. I can even UV them if I want to, but then if I send this into Keyshot, I will definitely get this result in Keyshot. All right, so let's look at other types of things I want to, so these kinds of things are really good, big markings, because if the spaceship is really far, so let's say there's 2 or 3 of these guys, so maybe one of them is this one, and let me duplicate this thing. I don't know if that's a good idea, but let me do it anyway. Right, so maybe there's 2 of these things, and that was pretty fast. 50 million polygons duplicated like that. Okay, and then maybe there's 1 and 2, right? So there's 1 and 2. And maybe, you know, these things are numbered, right? So there's flying in space. And maybe these things are numbered, and so maybe 2. It's going to be kind of a interesting, well, I guess I can use mask lasso for it. All right, so I'm just going to undo the mask. Did I just, okay, I did. I was going to turn Dynamesh off and I forgot. I think I turned it off with the previous one, but when we reloaded this. So I think, you know, I think at some point it'll come with the escape here. So I can escape out. Oh, don't do this. All right, we'll give it 1 minute. I'm just going to give it 1 minute. If it doesn't do it, I'll just come back. I mean, painting this was pretty easy. I can do it again. All right, let's see. All right, so Adidas Spaceship. There you go. Why not? Why not? And yeah, I do. Let's see. Dova, I guess. What I do have this all broken out into different subtools, right? So it's not really, you know, it's not really, yeah, here we go. All right, sorry about that. I guess when you start dealing with really high density meshes, you get into a little bit of these issues. But usually, you know, I kind of figure out what to do. But unfortunately, this time it's happening all during the stream, which is never fun, but it's always good to kind of see. I mean, if I let it go, it would have been done. I just don't want to take your time to do it. All right. So we'll just do the painting over again. It's not that big of a deal. But I will make sure to turn off Dynamesh and also so this doesn't happen again. Okay, so Johnny Boy is asking if I built this with my own kitbash, and no, I did not. So I did build the ship myself. You can watch the previous streams. You can see exactly all the different steps I go through. So a lot of these pieces are my own pieces, but I did also use a couple of kitbash kits. One's by Oleg Ushinok, I think, is the guy's name, and another one by, I forget the name, but I did mention them in the stream. So if you go watch the previous streams, and you can see how I use the kitbash. And I also have a script that I run called kitbash duplicate, which I am going to make available with a small kitbash kit for a nominal price. And that's coming soon too. I've got 3 or 4 things that are going to come out at some point in the next couple of months. I'm not teaching this fall, so I've got time to do these things, and watch out for them when they are available. The only other thing I should also mention is that, here we go. So yeah, the question you're asking is like, yeah, these are all different pieces right here. If you look at the subtools, the front, the back part, for example, there are different subtools, and I think if I have, yeah, here we go. As I go through these, you can see these are different subtools that I kind of put together, and there are kitbash kits. I don't usually use kitbash parts as is. Sometimes I do, but most of the time I modify them in ZBrush. A lot of them have really kind of CAD type geometry. So here, let's look at one, like let's say this one right here, right? So this one, I'll zoom in on it. You can see that this is kind of more of a CAD type of topology. Actually, this one's not that bad. But a lot of times I use, I modify these so that they're not generically exactly the way they were in there. Like this one, for example, right here. Right, this one was just a tube, and I modified it so that you can see the CAD kind of parts inside here. The topology is really not that good, but then I used Extender in ZBrush and used different features to do it. And in the first few videos, a lot of the stuff is really, I talk about the stuff at length. So you can watch those, and if you have questions on any of them, just tune in on the next couple of streams. You can ask them and I can answer them. And also, I mean, like here's basically the different, here's one of the kitbash kits, right? So let's say I like this piece and I want to use it. Let's find something here that kind of makes sense. Maybe this one right here looked good. Like this piece, where'd it go? This one, right? So I just basically select it. I need to make sure I'm on that subtool. I select it like this. So it hides all the other subtools. So there's 3 different pieces here, different subtools. And then kitbash duplicate, basically what it does is it just isolates it, makes its own subtool. So you can see it's probably going to be a big honking one right there. And it also does the copy. And then I just go to the spaceship right here and I paste. Right? So, and unify. So I'm going to make a paste and unify. I'm going to also, I'm always making scripts. Joseph Drust usually helps me with these. Oh, come on. See, that's the problem with these kitbash parts, is that they have really kind of chancy topology, so to speak, so that they could cause crashes. I don't know. Let's see. Switching. All right. Nope. Let's just wait for this to do its thing. I don't think this is a crash. I'm really pushing ZBrush to its limits today. So, of course, all the other streams that I did, I maybe had one crash in the whole set. But when I get to this part, it usually becomes more of a challenge. All right, come on. Let me make sure that this thing is still running. If it's not, I'll just end it. Looks like, yep, here we go. Nope, it crashed. All right, no worries. All right, so hopefully this will be the last crash that we have. And also I'm going to close some of these programs that I have. Let me just save this. And that maybe will help, because I've got Photoshop and I've got a couple other things up as well. So maybe I'm running into memory limitations, which is very possible. All right, here we go. All right, so there we are. Let's maximize this. And let's load this one last time. And let's also remember to turn off that Dynamesh. Because I don't think that's causing the issue here, but it did cause it in the previous part, and we don't want to do it. Yeah, most kitbash parts, some kitbash parts are made in ZBrush, and they're really good. Some kitbash parts are made in CAD programs and then converted to OBJ files or FBX files. And usually when I get those, there's a ton of different issues with them. Normals are flipped, and you know, sometimes I have to go in here under geometry, excuse me, and do a mesh integrity check, and it usually finds a bunch of weird stuff that it gets rid of. But ZBrush is pretty good at using them. So when I was loading all those parts and kitbash parts, it didn't have a single issue. So I don't know why this one decided to do this to me, but it should be no big deal. All right, let's see. Do I have any other programs I can close? Nope. I think everything else should be fine. All right. So here, let me just do this while I'm thinking about it. Go over to this one. Go to Dynamesh. Right here. And turn it off. All right, so now we're good. No more redynameshing a 50 million polygon model. All right, and then I kind of showed you how I did the kitbash duplicate thing. So that's basically what I do, and then I just bring it in here and position it and put it on top of where it is. Eventually, I think what I'm going to do is figure out like maybe a set of 50 or so pieces that I use all the time, and maybe make an IMM brush with those kitbash parts, and then so I can just kind of draw them on. But anyway, back to painting. So here, what we did was we duplicated this, and what we're talking about was there would be two of them, and one of them would have one stripe and the other one would have another stripe. What's really nice here is that now that I have two different spaceships, so here I can just kind of juxtapose this one. Right, so here's another 50 million polygon spaceship. So if there were maybe two of these guys, like one of them would have one stripe and the other one would have two stripes. All right, so let's continue painting and doing some ideation on this and figuring out ways of, what kind of designs I want on there. So I really like that stripe, but this time I'm going to do it a different way. I guess since crashes happen, it's always good to do things, gives you an opportunity to do different things differently. So I'm just going to use their default primitives here. Let's resize them so they fit into, into the screen. I'm just going to use this kind of simple square here, bring it over here, and let's move these ones out of the way. Right, and just with this one, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to resize it this way. And then I think one of these is, yep, just do that. So this is probably easier to draw stripes with. The thing I like about the other one is that it gave me a good angle already, but I can do that here too. So I'm just going to rotate it at an angle like so, place it over here. And this time I'm also going to do another trick, which is instead of masking and repainting afterwards, I'm just going to do this. So I'm basically going to mask this part off and this part off beforehand. And for a good measure, I'll mask off the antenna. So I guess the good news is that by having this issue happen, what we're doing here is, I want to do that. Let's undo one more time. I think I was in move mode. That's why that happened. So here I've got the top part masked, and then let's mask off the antenna. Over here like so. Let's get that just right. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but if you're masking, you can hold the space bar and move the mask area. So here we go. So all that is masked now, and I'll just mask this whole back part, why not? So we don't get any paint on it. Same with this over here. And so the rest is good to go. Now another thing I'm also going to do here is I'm going to turn on symmetry. Let's see if that works. And let's go ahead and go to the paintbrush. And let's switch these colors. So I'm going to be painting with white. Let's bring this back. And let's move it into place, like maybe over here, like so. And that's good. And then we'll just go ahead and, whoops, start painting in white. And then you can either move the spaceship or you can move the, see, that's why I shouldn't have moved the spaceship, but that's fine. I can, moving the spotlight's a little bit better, because if you have the spaceship, it's always good to, and I didn't do this before, I should do it now, is just go in and put in a camera here, lock in. So if you move it around or whatever, you can always just kind of scroll it back. This is the timeline, by the way, so you can always scroll it back to there. And so here I'm just going to do this, get it exactly where I want it, pop another one of these guys in, like so. So I don't need these two, let me get rid of them. The less clutter you have, the better off you are. And now just go in and start painting, making sure the paint is there. I think I kind of, yeah. Okay, so this is a good thing to know. You can kind of see here that these lines aren't straight. The reason why they're not straight is because perspective is on. So make sure if you're painting something like this and you want it to be orthographic, make sure that your perspective is off, right? Turn perspective off. And is symmetry on? It is. Let's see if this works. So I'm just going to paint that and then go to X here and move this back over to here. I basically will have the same exact angle because it's there, and the distance here is good. Another thing I can do, by the way, if I want to keep that distance is like if I didn't want to, you know, let me do it that way actually. If I didn't want to second guess it, right? What I could do here is I can do this tile. Right, so now it creates 3 different stripes or 4 different stripes. So let's say I'm going to do 3. We like the kind of the Adidas idea earlier, right? And let me bring these a little bit closer together like so. And then if I resize this whole thing, it'll kind of give me these different stripes. So let me see here if I can get these to be, I think I'm just going to do them one by one. There we go. All right, so there's the first stripe. Turn this off. I just need to remember, see, like now I can just basically lock this back in. Remember to start on the model. There's that first paint job, right? And then press X and move this over like so. If I hold Shift down, I mean, here it doesn't really matter, but let's say I move it to here and press X again, or Z in your case. And there's the second stripe, and let's say this is going to be number 2. And so now if I hide that, it did do it on the other side, so here we go, right? So now I've got these 2 stripes on here. And so if I had the ambient occlusion, when somebody was asking about that, if I did have the ambient occlusion, what that would have done is, you know, these nooks and crannies, I could have basically, you know, weathered it so the stripes show off a little bit better. So there's that. Now the other thing also is if I want to put text on here, I can. And I think the best way to do text is to just use the Z plugin for the text. So here there is a text Z plugin, and you can use that for it. So here I'm just going to go and do that real quick. And I'll show you how to create an alpha with that. So here I'll go to text 3D. And what we're going to do is we're going to call this, I don't really have a name for the spaceship. I think we were throwing around the idea of calling it ant because it looked like an ant before, but it's changed since then. So maybe we can call it, I don't know, let's see. Illuminatus, because I think it'll meme better. And so there it is. And so the way that this works is I'm just going to go ahead and append one of these guys here. Let's just do that in here. So now new text. So it's just going to be calling that as the name of it. And there it is. Okay, so now we've got that text, and it is like so, right? And here I'm going to get rid of that asterisk. I don't need it anymore. I wonder if that actually did create one over here too. Did it? Nope, it didn't. All right, that's fine. Okay, so here we are. Here's our text, right? And what I want to do is I want to paint this text. I actually can place it on there, but I don't want to place it on there. I just want to paint it, right? So here what I can do is I can just do this and go to alpha and say make alpha. Where it is, make texture. Nope. All right, let me do this with it. There it is. And I could probably generate it from this thing too, but let's do this again. Make alpha. Nope. All right, let's delete this one. I think I'm doing this all wrong. There we go. Nope. Nope. And alpha. And where is it? Create from noisemaker. No, that's not what we want to do. Make 3D. We don't want to do that either. I think grab doc does it, is what I'm looking for. So let's go to alpha and grab doc. Okay, so there it is, right? So now we have that as an alpha. And let's go back to our spaceship. This one right here. And if I'm going to paint that name on here, right, so I'm going to choose a different color for that. So let me do a switch color here again. And so there's my alpha. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Lightbox, go to Spotlight. Let's just go to this one. Let's just go to that one right there. And X. Let's resize this down. And of course, I've completely forgotten how to make a alpha from or make one of these from the alpha. I think it's alpha, where is it? I think it's alpha, and I think it's spotlight, add to spotlight. I think it's, no, I know it is. Okay, so I'm going to make a texture with it first. There it is. And then I'm just going to add that on here. There it is. And now I just basically pick this, resize it, and place it where I want it to go. And for this, I want to make sure I turn the symmetry off, right? So it's kind of, you know, it's appearing on top of, maybe I need to make this spaceship bigger. Let's hide all this. Right, so it's going to go over here. I just want to place that there, and I'm now going to place another camera. So now I can go between the first one that I had and the second one. So I'm going to go to this one right here, and then bring this back up. Right, and let's resize it. It's kind of white on white, but it doesn't matter. I can kind of see it. And there it is. I'm not going to paint it, of course, in white. I'm going to probably choose a different color, maybe orange or something like that. So there's that, and then press X. So now this is here, and let's go ahead and pick a nice orange, like so. And then we can just go ahead and paint it on the spaceship, and it should be there if we hide this. Well, let's make sure RGB is on. It is, and so Shift X. Okay, so it's somewhat there, but not fully. And I don't know why it's painting it in white. It should be painting it in orange. So let's just do this again. Well, let's try this. Okay, this is working. Why isn't this working? Let's just choose a deeper red, orange here. All right, here we go. All right, so it's basically running the brush on here. And then when I hide this, it should be on there. forgot to do the mirroring thing. That's fine. Yeah, I don't know why it's still painting it in white. I'll figure that out. But it should be painting it in whatever color you had. You can basically make it whatever color you want to. I mean, that's another thing you can do. Let me get back to this state right here. Yep. All right. Right, so let's get that again, alpha there. Another thing I can also do, by the way, is I can also paint this. I can drag it on. So I can do drag rectangle, this alpha with this color. Right, I can do it this way too. So different ways of doing it. The problem with this is I need to make sure I start exactly in the center of where I want the text to go. So like right there. And also I need to make sure I don't start at an angle. So right there, this should do it, right? Like so. All right, so I have symmetry on, that's why I'm getting that weirdness. So I'm gonna turn symmetry off and do it one last time. Okay, so there, this is kind of how I can place the name of the ship on here as well. And notice that it's a projection, so the S is kind of wonky, but you can always fix that later. But I'm going to do one more, and I'm just going to do it here like this. Okay, so there's the name of the spaceship, like so. And if I don't like it, I can always kind of change the color to a different color. So I think I'm going to choose a darker color and do it this way. And just paint it on. By the way, another thing to note is another way you can do this is you can also use drag dot. But for that, you need to make your brush size the right size, and then you can just drag and place it where you want it to go as well. So different ways of doing the same thing. I personally like using Lightbox more than the other two methods, but just wanted to make sure I showed the different ways of doing that. Okay, so there's the text, and let's kind of see what the spaceship looks like at different angles. Let's turn perspective back on. Get rid of that mask, and you can see here that slowly but surely you can start adding a lot of different details. And here I'll just go in and find different objects and start coloring them. So I accidentally again colored this bottom part. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mask it, invert that mask. Like so. So everything else is masked. Let's do it this way. And just go back to this color right here. And let's turn off this alpha and just paint. Go back to regular brush stroke and switch color, and let's just paint this stuff back the color that it was before, right? Because I don't really need these antenna things to be white. All right, so yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a slow process. You just can go in and paint different areas, mask different areas, and start getting some good information on here. And then the good news is, and I'll shoot this over into Keyshot, that the polypaint will preserve in Keyshot as well. And you can change materials while you're doing that. So, let's also do some NPR renders in here too. So let's say I want to do some renders of this spaceship that are going to be let's say blueprint types of things. So what we'll do here is we'll go ahead and go to BPR and just do a BPR render real quick. And I think I might already have one in here. You can see here the render goes pretty fast. I don't know any of that. So here it's just, it does a normal BPR render, which looks pretty good. I've got ambient occlusion on here, so it works well. I can choose different shadow angles. Like let's say I want to come at it from this angle. I've got a couple of lights on here. Let me go ahead and take a look. Yep, I've got 3 lights. I'm going to turn these 2 lights off and just have this one. Right, and then if I do a BPR render, it's going to go ahead and render it with basically that lighting information. And there it is. So now what I could do here is just go into render menu and choose one of these BPR render passes. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with there's a few blueprint ones in here already. So I'm just going to bring out the light box here, and let's just go to one row. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and start with just this one right here. So you can see this is already really nice. This is one view, and I can save this view. I can snapshot it. And then I might want one from the top. So I'm going to rotate my model, do another BPR render. And it's going to remember my filter, so it's going to keep this filter this way. Right? So there is the top blueprint. And of course, there's different versions that they have, and they're all really good as well. And you can modify them. So here are all the different 4 of them. I think of all of them, I like this one the most. Let's take a look at this one again. See how fast it is? You can just jump back and forth. So this one doesn't really have the inside details, but this one does. And so I think I'm going to stick with this one. So there's kind of a BPR render, and I can also see what it looks like in a non-photorealistic render, right? So if I want this to be line art, right? So let's say I'm going to do a cartoon or something, and the spaceship is going to be in it, right? I can always just go in and re-render it. So just do a quick BPR. And this is what it's going to look like as line art, and I can just color it in, or actually there is a color in version as well, this one, that does it this way. And if I don't like that green, I can just go ahead and change it to maybe like a light blue or gray or something like that. Right, and it also maintains the polypaint, so you can see the polypaint is showing up as well. And the reason why it's this bluish color is because it's maintaining the color that I've painted it before. So when I did the fill object, I filled it with this bluish color. All right, so you can see here that you can get some really nice results. If you want it to look more painterly, for example, there's a really neat one to do that as well. So let me just do, let me turn perspective on, and let me move my light. Maybe the light's coming in from here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on my other lights because it actually created a neater look. So I'm going to turn these lights back on, one from the bottom, and this one's straight on. Okay, and then just do another render. And then if I wanted this to be some sort of an illustration or something like that, there's this one. Where is it? I can make pixel art with it with one button press. So here, if I want this to look more like pixel art, I can just click on one of these guys. I think these are the pixel art ones, right? Or no? Yeah. Yep, there we go. Pixel art. And I can change the pixelation of this to be a little bit different. So go back to the render menu here and go to the BPR filters, and notice here that I think this one is the pixelation. Nope, which one is it? It's got to be one of these guys, right? So overpaint color, Orton, and sharpen. Let's see, is it this one? Yeah, one of these is the pixelation. So here's kind of one that's more of a print. Let me go back to this one right here. I think it's this one. Okay, here we go. Square tone, right? So let's jump to this pixelation one again. And why am I missing the one that is the thing that's making it? So this one's the Orton. I can turn it off. I think that just makes it lighter or darker. And is it this one? Nope, it must be this one then. Yep, it's this one. So this one is the overpaint color is the one that makes it pixelated. And I think under modifiers here, I can choose how big this pixelation is. And I'm trying to see which one that is. Width. Yep, so I can change the width and the height. So I can make this, let's say 0.1. Maybe that's too small. Let's say 0.5. So you can kind of see it's created this glitch effect, which is kind of neat as well. And then I can make the other one here, the width 0.5 as well. And so 0.5 and 0.5. Right, so now it's still pixelated, but not as bad Now I can just go to, let's say, go to entire 1 and take this one to 1 as well. And I can get this type of pixelation happening. Another really nifty one to do is, and that's kind of, I got sidetracked. I need one of those tangent things that Paul uses. I might get one of those stream chat things, but here we go. This one, I really like this one because it makes it look very painterly. So this looks like something that was done in Photoshop, and maybe a top view or a bigger view. Let's go to a bigger view of it, like so. And if I do this BPR render with that filter, it looks like something that was painted in Photoshop. It looks very painterly, it looks very illustrated, and you can kind of see the details, you can see the polypaint, but it creates something that looks like it's been painted in Photoshop, which is really nice. And you put this against the background, and it creates something really kind of neat. So if you are doing, let's say, a graphic novel or something like that, and I'm I always think of using these things in some sort of a story. I can always use these filters to do it this way. And soon we'll be launching Keyshot and doing it this way. All right, so any no questions? Wow, you guys are like riveted and with no questions. So there it is again, like really neat kind of looking thing here. Maybe I can change the background color here to a darker color, like so, and let's see what that looks like. Yep, there you go. See how fast that was, and it looks really, really neat. So I can basically use this to create illustrations, and I can do it from any angle, right? So here's one that's looking at it from the top, and then I can do one that's looking at it from the bottom or whatever. Wherever the spaceship is in my story, I can go ahead and regenerate this type of illustration for it 100 times. All right, so now that that's done, let's go ahead and see what this thing is going to look like in Keyshot. So this is going to be interesting. I think I should do a quick save before we do that. And maybe take a swig of tea here. So, and then we'll shoot this over to Keyshot. So my goal is to use these methods that I'm showing today to go ahead and finish painting this thing by next week. And then the next week, all we're going to do is just basically pop in a background. I have a few, and then we're also going to just load it into Keyshot and get some good looks and do some cool renders with it. All right, so this shouldn't take that long to save. I guess I should have instanced this instead of, it's going to save two of the bigger ones, but it's not going to take that long, and I'd rather save it than lose the edits that we made. And I probably won't call the ship Illuminatus. I think I've got some other names I'll think up and put it on there. But I thought Illuminatus would be a fun one to use because it'll get memed somehow. All right. So nobody has any questions? Wow. I guess I'll ask you guys a question. Where are you guys all from? What continent are you tuning in from? Or what country? Owen is asking, Owen 2.0 is asking what program do you use to render this in, and I use Keyshot, and I use three different renderers. So I use Keyshot most of the time because it's quick and I can get what I want out of it. But I also use Octane, and I like some of the things that Octane does really well. So I use Octane sometimes as well. And I also use RenderMan. So those are the three renders I use. Sometimes I use Arnold. Sometimes I use V-Ray, depending on the project and the client and what they want. But if I'm doing something on my own, I usually use either Keyshot or V-Ray. Sometimes I use RenderMan just for specific things that RenderMan does really well. Okay, so here we go. We've saved it. So let's go ahead and launch it into Keyshot. So I'm going to turn Keyshot on and use the same BPR process to load it into Keyshot. Now in Keyshot, I don't really care about the paint and the color. All I care about is all I care about is the material and the look of the material and the lighting and the composition. So here, as Keyshot is loading here, it loaded up, and it's going to load in the model. Hopefully that answers your question. I think who asked the question? Owen? Owen, yeah, you did. Okay. So Sequence 249 is in North America. Awesome. Anybody else? Where are you guys? Where are you tuning in from? Do we have anybody from Europe? There's quite a few people in here. I guess maybe all of you are from North America. All right. We've got somebody from Russia. All right, so here we go. Here's my model loaded into Keyshot. And as you saw, let me just do something real quick here. One of the things that Keyshot does is you have to open up the preferences for it to work with the Wacom, right? So it's looking pretty good in Keyshot right here. One of the things I want to do right off the bat is let's go in and turn off the floor lighting because this thing is in space. And this is a good, I guess, HDR, but let's try this one. Let's pop this HDR in, and I think it's got a square aspect ratio because I was doing stuff for Instagram photos, so there we go. All right, and I don't really want to see this background, so I'm just going to choose just a neutral gray to be my background. And now we can see the spaceship like so. One other thing I want to do, let me take another swig of tea here. Is let's orient this HDR the way it's supposed to be. I was watching Maddie Spencer's stream and she did this. I usually rotate the model, but I guess you can also rotate the HDR. So there's that, right? And now I'm just going to think about, okay, well, what kind of material would look really good on this, right? So I want to maintain the polypaint. I don't want to get rid of the polypaint, but I also want to look at what kind of material works well on here. And let me do something else here. I'm going to change the image size not to be square. So I'm going to change this. And let's just go to presets and choose, let's just choose this one. This is fine. That way I'm using up more of the screen real estate. Okay, so let's just go ahead and look at materials here. And when I change the material out, it's also going to maybe, you know what? Actually, this isn't going to work because I painted this ship as well. So if I drag a material, even if I hold Alt down, it's going to replace the entire thing with it, which is fine. But let's try some metals. Let's try some aluminum here. And I'm just going to go ahead and just choose basic aluminum here, polished, drag and drop that over onto here. And that's going to create this type of look, but then I want to mess with this material a little bit. And let's go ahead and look at its properties. And I'm going to change this to color and not measured, and let's just choose a really dark color for the material. So here I've got something a little bit more reflective and something a little bit more metallic, and I'm trying to see if this type of look is what I want. This is looking really good on the reflectors. So the angles that I have on the reflectors are creating some really interesting effects. And I can always go ahead and rotate the environment as well, just to kind of see what that looks like. So this is kind of like moving the light on the object. So there it is. That looks good. And but I don't think I like the polished metal here. So I'm going to go to something that's anodized. Let's just use this anodized aluminum. That looks good. That looks really, really good. Right, so I'm going to undo this twice. And I'm going to try something here. And see if this works. I'm going to alt drag it. Yeah, it didn't work. Yeah, because it's all, the whole thing was painted. And I shouldn't have done that. I should have just painted the area with its default paint. I wonder if, yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think I could do it now. It'll probably take a little bit more time. All right, so this is looking good. Let's try a few different environments to see what that looks like. So I'm going to try an environment here, which I'm going to make. So I'm going to go ahead and delete some of these pins on here. So in space, usually light is kind of very pointed and it's one directional. So I'm just going to do HDRI editor here. And let's delete some of these pins. So that one's gone. And rotate it this way. And let's delete this one too. So I basically just have one light. And let's move that light over to here. And let me rotate this environment back to 180. Right, it doesn't matter. Let's do 180, and then let's see where this falls if I move it to the center. It moves to the back, and so I want it just to be over here, like so. Okay, and what I want to do with this light is I want to mess around with it. So I'm going to change the brightness of this thing, and let's just go back to the HDRI editor. I'm going to change the radius of it to be something smaller, like 10. And I'm going to change the color of it to be maybe a little bit more bluish. Slightly, not too much. That's fine. Okay, that's good. And what I also want to do here is I want to change its size. So right now, its radius is 10, but its brightness is 2.8. I'm going to crank that brightness up to 10. Let's go to 100. Let's see what that does. So 100, we've got a very small light that is casting a bright, we go up to 12 here. Okay, so there is kind of my really bright, 100 is too much, let's go with 10. So there's my light, and I can either move the object around or I can move the light around to kind of see how it affects it. And this, I'm looking for kind of what it would look like if it was in deep space. And there was kind of a light source somewhere really far away lighting the ship. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to something, a different color here, or maybe a different material. Let's go to some plastics. Let's just go to paint, and let's choose a rough paint, and let's just choose like a grayish primer, because that'll show us the lighting a little bit better. Let's try maybe white. Here we go. Okay, so this is what the light is looking like when it is projected. And what I'm looking for here is shadow quality. So here you can see that the shadow quality looks like more like it's in space. And I can actually bump up the brightness a bit. Let's just go to 50. Right, so here we go. This looks like it is in space. There is a light source that's really far away. The shadows are pretty harsh. And if I let this sit around for a while, it really cooks it in a nice way. All right, let's see. I missed the start. Will be available somewhere. Yes, Michael, you can watch the rest of the beginning of this. You can watch it at whenever you want from the start. And let me just go back to that page again. So here, if you go to ZBrush Live, right? So go to ZBrush Live, right? And then go to Presenters, look for my name, right? So we go to ZBrush Live, Presenters. So you just type Google ZBrush Live, it'll take you to this page. You go to Presenters, scroll down until you find me. I'm here. And then you can see that all of the different streams, so this was last week, so you know, tomorrow or next, I don't know, next day or so, this one that I'm doing now will be here. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is you can go to YouTube, right? And if you go to YouTube videos, like this one is live, it's happening right now. So eventually this will actually be here, right? So it will be in this spot. And you can watch it from the beginning, okay? So hopefully that helps. All right, so now we're back to this, and we're still kind of moving our sun around to see what the angle is. And maybe let's change this to maybe let's try cooler colors and see what that looks like, right? So here we're choosing something that has a cooler color, more like a yellow. And we can move this around again to see what that shadow is. And see the in space, and if you look at space footage of things that are in space, like maybe spaceships that are flying, you know, the SpaceX stuff or whatever, you can always see that the shadows are pretty harsh. They're not kind of diffused. So to get that in Keyshot, you basically have to make your light smaller, right, and your brightness up. So you need more brightness on it. So here, you know, this looks more like it's in space. And if I want to change my background here, which I will do, so I'll jump back to my background here, and the color of the background, I'm going to make it darker, so it looks like more like it's in space, right? So this looks more like it is in space now, right? it has that kind of same type of, you know, illumination that something in space would have. And that's what we're going to play with next week, is we're going to actually have a picture of a space scene in the background, and then we're going to play around with the lighting here to kind of determine what a good angle would be to light it. So this is kind of going to be my primary light, but then that's killing all the areas down here. So what I'm going to do now is add another light right down here, and that's going to give me a little bit of a fill light to actually light these bottom parts. But I don't need this to be this intense, so I'm going to change this one's brightness down from 1 to, let's say, 0.5. Right, so now I've got those harsh shadows, but I can also see what's going on the bottom of the spaceship, right? And you can see, I'm done with that, and you can see kind of what's going on. The other thing I like about this light is if I click on a light here, right, I can always go to placing that light. Let me see, where's the button for that? At a certain angle where I can actually see. Is this it? Let me use a mouse so I can stay on it. No, that's not it. I think when I added the light, it actually did that for me, but maybe it's, there is a button for it, which is, this is add a gradient, add image background, copy pen, nope. Generate canvas, is this it? No. So it actually breaks it up. So what that does actually is it just breaks out the HDR editor into here. But here's the button, right? So this is it. So what I will do here is I can just say, okay, I want the highlight. I want this, you know, this is going to be where my highlight's going to be. So I can just click on there. Instead of moving it around in that window, I can just move it around this way. And I'm going to bring this back, right? So I can just move this dot around and say I want, you know, let's say this is the area I want to focus on. And let's say this is going to be a close-up, right? So I can just do a close-up, and let's say maybe there's going to be a spaceship coming out of this spaceport over here, right? So I can just zoom in there, but I want it to be lit so I can actually show that spaceship coming out. So for that, I'm going to pop this window out again. I think that button is somewhere around here. Oh, here it is. No, this is a screenshot. Where is it? Oh, right there. Okay, so now I can say I want that light to shine on this area right here, right? So I'm just going to move this around until I light the area that I want to light, which is over here, right? So now the light is shining over on this area, right? And it's shining this, I'll leave the key light over here. Let's say this is the one I want to move. So there's that. Excuse me. And I can click on this and maybe change its intensity back up. And just tell it, okay, what I want to do now is I want to use that light to light this area. Control left mouse button. Let's try this with the mouse. Okay, so I want that to go here. This is adding a new light, which is not what I want. All right, let's just go ahead and get rid of these lights. Delete this one, and this is the one I want. So here it is, and yep, there it is. Okay, so that basically lights up the area that I want to light up, right? So this is basically just the fill light lighting up that area, and once I'm done, I can re-rotate my image, and again I can move this around to somewhere else, and I'm getting those cool kind of spaceship lights, right? So a lot of times, you know, it's good to, maybe I need to dumb this down a little bit more. I think 50 is too much, maybe 20. 20 is too little, 25 I think would be our sweet spot, right? And let me choose a different color light here. Let's go for something cooler. Maybe something like so, and then, you know, so there it is, right? So I basically can find an angle like this. So this is what I want, and then I can run my render this way, and I can choose different angles like so. Maybe choose a little bit of bloom on here. I can choose a depth of field as well. Depth of field is really nice. So if I was basically looking at the spaceship like that, right? So I can just kind of create a depth of field effect. So let's say I wanted to actually focus on this area. So that's what we'll do. Depth of field, say this is what I'm going to be looking at right here. And so it basically blurs out the rest, right? So it kind of looks something like this. And again, let's just choose our point. And then we can choose the f-stop here to choose what part of it is blurry and what part of it is not, right? And that kind of creates the illusion of depth if I want to. And I can always go back to lighting here and choose the light, move the light around. So maybe we have this thing coming out of, like, let's say, dark area. So I can move this light to a place where it's lighting more the back of the spaceship, maybe over here, like so. So I've got the depth of field, I've got the lighting going on, and so it's kind of creating a more dramatic look for it. Let's also turn bloom on. That always adds a little bit of extra kind of glowy edges to it. And yeah, so we'll be doing a lot more of this next week and getting this to be more in types of, in more of a kind of a scene where we actually are putting it in an environment and doing that. So let me just go and turn this off. Right now we're using a 50mm lens. Let's see what an 80mm lens does, which is a little bit better for space kind of stuff. And so yeah. So I can always rotate around the object. I can always move the lights around. I do a lot of this type of stuff to determine a good kind of lighting look dev for the object. And then when I'm happy with it, then I bring in the background and start adding the materials and whatnot. I'll be bringing this ship in different pieces. Like for example, all the stuff in here is going to be reflective, which is going to add some really cool effects. And then there'll be the paint job that I do on it, kind of like I did today. And so we'll basically have this full thing ready to go next stream. Okay, all right, so why not applying different material for reflections? I can add different reflection. I mean, I can add reflective materials to it. You know, let's do a reflective material. Why not create a gold version of this, right? I love gold. No, I'm just kidding. All right, where is it? Metal and precious materials. What I love about Keyshot is just like, you know, you want gold, it's right there. So where is precious materials? Aluminum, magnesium, titanium, zinc, stainless, precious. There it is. Bam. Gold. There it is. Basic. Let's just use a brushed gold. There it is. Now it has reflective material and it's a golden spaceship. Right? So now it's reflective and it's got the light properties and it's got all the different things that we worked on. Right? And if we don't like it to be gold, we want it to platinum, we can do platinum as well. And now it's reflective, and also it has the kind of the material properties that aluminum has. And again, you can move the light around just to kind of see what this is going to look like. And here we go, we're getting some good effects. And yeah, so one thing to note is that Keyshot is really expensive on its own, but you can get Keyshot for ZBrush. So if you're a ZBrush user, you can get specific Keyshot for ZBrush, and it's a lot. It costs a lot less. You can only use it with ZBrush, but you know, what else are you going to use? I mean, unless you use it with other programs, you can funnel stuff from ZBrush into it, and it actually creates some really interesting looks. From ZBrush, and you don't actually have to spend the amount you need to spend on Keyshot if you're going to use it with, like, let's say CAD programs or other software. And also there's the bridge, so it's just a one button press. I just press one button to get this model into Keyshot, and I like that a lot too. In Octane, I actually have to export it and then import it into Octane. It's a few steps. It's not that bad, but you know, it's a lot easier to just do this one button press. All right, so let's see, how are we doing on time? All right, we got about 10 minutes or so left. So I will leave that for any questions. And yeah, you can export. Yeah, that's a good question. Let's see. Sequence 249 is asking whether or not I can export this. Yeah, I can. So let's say I basically like this type of, I like this composition look of the spaceship, and I want to export this. And let me change the color of it too, by the way. I can go in here under settings, or under material, sorry, not settings. And let me edit this material. And right now it is metal, but it is measured. So basically it has the exact properties of of platinum. But let's say I want actually to change the color. So now I can actually go in and add a color to it. So let's go to some colors here, and let's choose this color right here. So it's platinum, but it's got this kind of more light taupe color. And I like this. I want to render it. So when I go to render passes here, right, I've got all these different render passes that I can render out. So I've got diffuse, which is the color, the lighting, the GI, global illumination, caustics if I have them, the reflection, the refraction, the shadow, ambient occlusion could be its own pass, clown pass, which is really useful, depth, and all these. So basically when I render these out, I can choose all these different passes. Whatever I check, those passes will be rendered as well. Now the other thing also to note is that you can also choose your file type. So you can see here that there's all these ones, and there's EXR right there for you. So yeah, you can basically just render out the passes and get them that way. Now if you had different subtools, so this is just one object that we exported, right? So if I look at my scene here, it's just one object. But if I exported it as pieces, and let me do that, why not? I've got 10 minutes, that's enough time. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on done here. And let's go ahead and just delete this. Yes, I want to delete the object, but not the lighting scenario. Let me render this also while it's doing that. And just go back into ZBrush. And let's say what I want to do is I don't want to send this model over. I want to send my actual model that has 159 different subtools. Right? So now I've got this thing right here that I'm going to send. But this thing is basically 4 different folders with a bunch of different parts. So now when I click on BPR to Keyshot, right, it's going to send all these different parts one at a time into Keyshot. So let's just switch to Keyshot here, and you'll see it coming in. Right? So you can see all the different parts coming in. One button press, 159. It's not 159, it's probably like 100 pieces, but it doesn't matter. All those subtools just get loaded in one by one. And then I can also, when I do the clown pass, which is what's really nice, is that it basically masks every single one of those subtools. So in Photoshop, I already have the mask for it. I can just use the lasso tool to select that one part and then just do a paint over or change it or edit it or do all that other stuff. So yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, for most of the rendering I need to do, Keyshot does a great job. A lot of people say that the renders you get out of Keyshot are very product looking, but if you know the settings, you can get some really good results. And I'll show you some renders that I've done in Keyshot that don't look like their product renders, right? So, for example, this right here, right? This is a render that I did in Keyshot that does not look like a product render. It looks like a very kind of weathered image. Here's another one. This is from where I made this mech. It's basically it's a Gnomon tutorial that you can watch all these different things, and I go step by step and explain every single one piece by piece. So here's another kind of very realistic looking render that doesn't look like it's a product render. So you can get some really nice renders from Keyshot that don't look like they're product renders, right? They look like they are basically very real renders. All right, so this is almost done here. It's at 100%. So in a minute here, we're going to see the model come in. And I'm getting really dry here, so I need to drink some more of this tea. And I think this is just one of the objects coming in, but the entire thing is over here, which is almost done. And what this is going to do is when it brings it in, you can kind of see over here that's going to have all those different objects. And I haven't really gone in and named everything yet. Maybe I'll do it next time, maybe not, I don't know. But now I've got all these different objects coming in. And so I can actually use, like if I want reflectors to be, I've got platinum looking reflectors, I can just drag those over and now just the reflectors are that platinum, right? And I'm linking these together so they're the same. So there are my two platinum reflectors, right? And then if I want, let's say, the rest of the model to be a different material, usually the way I do it is I don't do it the way that I just did. The way I usually do it is I just go to, when I bring something in, unless I want to keep the polypaint, I take all these different materials that I brought in. So every single one of these is a polypaint, and I'll choose all these ones here, and I'll link them all together. So now they're all one material. So I'm linking all the materials. So now I've got two materials on my model, right? And then let's say I want to bring in a color for the material. So here, let's say I go to paint again, and let's choose a rough paint, and I'll choose white here. So now this entire model is one color. And let's say I want to paint these pieces a different material. So I'll just go unlink the material. And let's say these are going to be blue, right? So now those pieces are blue. And then let's say I want this top part to be blue as well. So I'm going to unlink that material. And I'll go ahead, or that's purple actually, sorry, not blue. But then this is blue. Let's make this blue as well. It asks me if I want to link them, and I'll say yes. So now I basically have that part of it be a different material. And then I can just go in piece by piece and add these materials in. And this is probably how I'm going to do the rest of it. But I'm going to see if I can find a way to use the polypaint data to come on top of these this object. And I think I can do it with projection. So I'll be doing all that next week. When will the next stream be? I think it's in the schedule. So that's another good thing to note, is that if you go to the ZBrush Live here, you can go to, I think there's a calendar. There it is. And you can see all the different streamers and when their streams are. And let's see, do they have me yet? No, let's go ahead and load more. And I think they have it a month at a time. And here we go. My next one's going to be September 18th, right? So it's going to be a couple of weeks from now on the 18th, on Friday, same time, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific time. And so you can log in there. But, you know, check out the calendar. And there's a lot of really great streams as well. So you can always watch them. Ones that I really highly recommend are always watch Paul's streams. I watch these all the time, and I always learn stuff. So Paul's really good at explaining things. He is very knowledgeable in ZBrush, so he can tell you what to do if you have a question. So you can always ask him questions. He's always good about answering them. And he always does cool projects. Pavlovich does really good stuff, and also Pablo does amazing stuff. So Michael Pavlovich, Pablo, and Paul, and also Joseph Trust, if he does any, they're good too. And again, depends on the kind of stuff that you like. And there's always ZBrush Masters that come in as well. These are guys that work in the industry that have very specific things that they do. So there's a lot of cool stuff on here that you can watch, hours and hours of tutorials, as well as streams. So I highly recommend you take a look. And let's see, I think we're coming towards the end of our time here. I'll take some last minute questions, and then we will go ahead and adjourn for tonight. So yeah. All right. Somerset, you're more than welcome. Make sure you come on next time as well. And if you have any questions, if you watch the stream again and whatnot, and anything comes up, make sure to ask. Right, so here I'm just going to go ahead and separate this guy out. So unlink material, and maybe choose like a dark matte black for this. Right, so it's got maybe a gray. Right, and let me edit this color. Make it a bit darker, like so. I'm going to copy this material and paste paste it on here. All right, so now I've got my reflectors, and you can see here very quickly, I mean, I'm just doing very few operations here, and get something that's really, that looks really, really good. I think I'm going to copy this material, paste it here, right? And that basically, you know, and as you are changing the colors here, you're getting some really nice results. And then in Keyshot, if you just let it sit for a while, it just gets better and better and better as you go along. All right, so I guess there are no questions. I really want to thank you guys for coming to the stream. And again, catch me on the 18th. So I'll be finishing this project up finally. And then my next season, I'll probably take a month off or so. And then my next season, I'm going to do a mech. So those are you that are coming here for a mech, you will be able to see me design and make a mech. All right, with that, I bid everybody a good night, a good day, and or good morning, whatever your time is. Stay safe out there, wear a mask, social distance. Let's get rid of this thing so we can get our lives back to normal. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Bye.